So I was asked recently if I thought that camera manufacturers were producing cameras purely for YouTube vloggers these days. Now I highly doubt that, but it got me thinking, what about this one?
This is called the Canon M50. It costs around £600 and was designed by an 80s fanatic who happened to be blindfolded and trying a new technique of drawing with his feet. However, in an attempt to make up for this, the techno team in the room next door managed to shoehorn into this tiny exterior a 24 megapixel CMOS sensor and Canon's latest processor. This hotly contested little pocket rocket should therefore be a game changer for street and travel photography. Should being the operative word there. You see, this camera is fantastic for YouTube filmmaking. But have Canon concentrated too much on that and forgotten the very thing that photography was first invented for? Still images. So I went to the beautiful Lake District in northwest England to do with the M50 what I'm guessing so many buyers will do. Use it as a travel camera. This isn't the only thing I'll be testing this camera on, by the way, but it is one I figure I can't ignore. Some of the most striking landscape images consist of two things, light and shade. So I purposefully found areas which had these two contrasting elements in order to test the dynamic range of the famous Canon sensor. And you know what? It's distinctly average. It makes for a fantastic memory shot, but I don't know if I'd go as far as to hang it on a gallery wall. I always leave the colour profiles on neutral, and almost always set the exposure controls myself, metering for the highlights and the shadows, and then setting the exposure to be just somewhere in between. Always slightly favouring the highlights, because shadows are easier to pull back in post. Whoa, hold on. You see, sometimes I just want to shoot in automatic. I don't always have the time to be able to manually set everything, or at least I want to shoot in like aperture priority mode. Sometimes you've just got to get the shot and move on. Okay, I hear you. So what happens if we test intelligent auto mode? You know what? It actually looks pretty damn good, which is insane. Normally in auto mode, I'd expect it to meter for the highlights and drown my shadows in a sea of irretrievable black, or vice versa with the highlights. But no, by some strange witchcraft, that hasn't happened. It's actually done exactly what I did earlier to correctly expose the image, but in a fraction of the time. It all sounds wonderful then. But there are a couple of drawbacks. Firstly, the lens selection. There are a total of 7 native M-mount lenses for this camera, of which only 2 are primes. Now whilst they are nicely sharp and compact, they are particularly fast. The 22mm f2 is the equivalent to an f3.4 on the full frame camera, which is about as fast as a snail with a walking aid. With the M50 being so small, you'd expect it to be fiddly and uncomfortable to hold, hanging from your fingers like a limp chip. But it's not. The grip is surprisingly good and makes the whole camera feel quite stable and more ergonomic. But actually, I'm not all that interested in landscape photography. They are undeniably pretty and all that, but I just don't have the time or the patience to wait in a tree for 9 hours for the best shot, or to get up at sunrise to catch that beautiful misty morning. I'd probably just fall asleep on a rock and miss it. You see, I'm more interested in portraiture.
With Canon's reputation for reproducing some of the best skin tones on the current digital market, the M50 has a lot to live up to. But you certainly won't be disappointed. Straight out of camera, without requiring any further adjustment, the skin tones look natural and full of detail, which is all fantastic. But does this mean it's bland and boring? Like that one friend who just has the salad at a barbecue. As a stills camera, it is simply a file generator.
And in that capacity, it does not differ from any other file generators out there. Take for example this, the Canon OMD EM10 Mark II. It simply produces files. Or my least favourite camera at the moment, the Panasonic G80. They all just create files. Sure, they all put their own stamp on them by processing the colours slightly differently, but they all cost around the same and all do relatively the same thing. It's at this point that all the die-hard Canon users are shouting, "Oh, but the beautiful Canon colour science!" No, it is true straight out of camera, the Canon's pictures look nice, the skin tones look good. Personally, I actually prefer the Olympus colour science for still images. And then there's the Fujifilm cameras, which come with a whole range of image profiles based on their traditional and award-winning film stock. So why buy the M50? You know what, for me, by far the best part of this video was filming the B-roll. It was all shot on the M50 and I can't help but fall in love with the footage straight out of the camera. My recommendation on the M50 would be this. If you're looking for just a stills camera, I would probably look elsewhere. Whilst it does produce fantastic images, it's not the best images. However, if you're looking for something that can shoot great images and take fantastic video, then you really do not have to look any further than the Canon M50. Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. And until next time, peace.